Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus, and today we're going to be working on a pair of Santoni shoes. Let's get these guys all resoled and taken care of. Come join us and check out what we're going to be doing to them today. I'm Alan Turshkov. Join us today and enter our world of a cobbler to see the craftsmanship it takes to rebuild and restore footwear and other leather goods, as well as recommendations from our industry. So, I should probably get this out of the way. Today we're going to be working on a pair of Santoni shoes. I was going to be resoling them. As you can tell, they're heavily worn out on the toes here. Soles are definitely getting down there. Heels are getting worn off. We're going to be putting on a pair of JR leather soles, as well as some Triumph toe plates here. The Triumph ones are, for those of you who don't know, are the brass ones like that. So it's going to be a bit of work, I guess you can say. And also I've got my perfect timing, my little fancy Santoni sign. I'm excited because I just got this, and a week later I get these in. This sign was given to me by our fellow cobbler Marcel out in Amsterdam at Quick Shoe Repair. I gotta double check. I'm sorry, Marcel. It's based out on it. quickshoeservices.nl for Netherlands. But check him out if you're in Amsterdam. Really cool guy. I mean, him and his son came by. We had donuts and everything. Jason Dornstar came by. We're all hanging out, eating donuts and drinking coffee and hot chocolate and all that. And he gave me a little gift. Very cool. Thank you again, Marcel, for that. Perfect timing. That's all I could say. Perfect timing. It's funny how life turns out like that. It's been like that lately for me. Like, something happens and all of a sudden it's just bam, it worked out perfectly. So we're gonna go ahead and start getting ready to resole them. We're gonna start out by removing the old heel cap on these. I apologize, I might be working a little bit slower when it comes to doing this kind of motion right now. My right shoulder has been acting up the last few days, and I have to be a little gentler with it. And these heels usually stick very well from Santoni too. Grab our handy little thinner here. Give a little bit of a squirt all around the heel base area and let it do its magic. Now, like I said, you saw the toes there. We're gonna have to put a little bit of extra adhesive filler there in that area so that it can be nicely secured. And then towards the end, we're gonna be putting on the French toe plates. Everyone has a different walking pattern. This gentleman in particular just tends to catch his toes a little more frequently, it looks like. So a French toe plate, which come in the Lulu style, which are the silver ones, and then the Triumph ones are the brass or gold colored ones. And you know, if you're somebody that tends to wear out your toes, you may want to consider getting those taken care of then. And no, they're not gonna make a bunch of noise like tap dancing shoes. They're definitely going to be well secured onto your shoe, and sorry, doorbell. And they're not going to make much noise because of how well they sit flush. Okay, all right, set that one aside and give it a few minutes to deactivate the glues in there, and I'll be back over and start prying off them. All right, so we gave those a few minutes. Now we're going to grab our heel pry like that, start prying it off. Now these heels, usually from Santoni, they're a little iffy sometimes to pull off. They secure their heel blocks or heel bases very well, and so it could take a little effort. Looks like this one's going fairly well, but sometimes it could take a bit of effort to pull them off. All right. Whew. Could have been a lot worse. That one was fairly easy. A little too easy. Let's see what's going to happen next. Now I'm concerned. If one thing isn't easy, the next thing is harder. Who knows? But this one here, we'll make sure mark left. Ticket number, let's see, 3723. One pair of men's. Santoni. Alright, so you guys might not see it all that well, but it helps me identify which ones these go to. So it's for the left foot, ticket number 3723, one pair of men's, Santonis. Makes it easier that way down the road, because some companies, they make a left and a right heel base, so gotta make sure you match them up. But we're gonna go ahead and clip off all these nails sticking up right in here, as you can see, because they can cause some damage, not only to me, but if I end up taking it off this last, put it on the table, and then I forget that I have the heel block off and put another pair of shoes next to it, those heel nails can end up doing some damage. So I'll go ahead and do the other shoe. I'm going to put some thinner on the sole to start deactivating everything there, and let that do its magic, and we'll see you back here in just a few. Alright, got the heel base off the other one as well, and marked up. Now these Santoni heel bases, they are leather. It's kind of interesting when you look at them at first glance without actually feeling them. The overall look of them look like a fiber board, like most companies use nowadays. The Santoni ones are actually leather, which is really nice. That's why I say that they're kind of a pain to kind of pull off, just because the adhesives bind much better to them, and those gripper nails, they grip leather significantly better. But anyways, I'm gonna start getting ready to pull off the sole. So we've got our heel pry here. Now these are a Blake stitch, also known as McKay stitch is what we call them at the shops usually, because the stitcher that we use for them is called McKay. But most traditionally everyone knows them as a Blake stitch. Heel pry is just going to help me get in underneath here a little bit better. And where'd my knife go? There it is. It's on the magnet way up here. But now I can get in underneath here, start cutting through some of these stitches right there. Now this one does not have a welt of any sort, so what a lot of cobblers actually do with a pair of shoes like this that don't have a welt, just because they need a guide to be able to trim the sole back up and everything. I haven't had too much issues with it, but they actually sand out the sole as thin as possible, and then they glue the new sole over top and then stitch it like they would traditionally. I don't like doing that because you can't get the old stitches out, and for me, it drives me nuts when the old stitches are left behind. I mean, even if one little stitch is left behind, it just drives me nuts. So we're going to go ahead and be sure to remove this entire sole here. And as far as removing the stitches, we go in from the inside, of course, with a Blake stitch like this. Usually the stitching goes on the inside of the shoe right there. And this one, because it's got a full length insole, which we'll have to take out, it's covered up, but on some shoes you're able to look at them and tell, oh, those are Blake stitched. These ones you can't tell just because the original sole is glued down and everything, so we have to, or the insole is glued down, so we have to make sure to pull that up. And some of them also have what's called a little heel wren that goes underneath this sole right here. That also helps with the guide too. But you know, I haven't had, again, too much issues with it in the past, so I can literally take off this whole sole just like that and recreate it fairly well too. Now there was a little section, as you can tell right there, of some old cork. You can tell by the old sole right there. That's of course all rotted out and everything, so we're gonna sand it out and then do a little small cork pad right there at the ball of the foot. It gives a little bit more cushion than going straight to the leather. Some companies do it, some companies don't. Some have a foam or a felt material, but we're gonna go ahead and put cork in there regardless. So at this point I'm gonna go ahead and take out the insole. I've got the little nail nubs sticking out right here, and we're gonna go ahead and take those out. So let me first set this one aside and take off the other sole. I'll take out the insoles out of these, set those aside, and start moving on to the next step. Alright, so I've got the insoles taken out. I've still got chunks of their cushion that will peel off later on, clean it up and replace the cushion, clean up the old insoles and everything, and clean up some any salts that may be there from sweat and everything. But got majority of that cleaned out for the time being. Unfortunately, when you start using things like thinners and everything, it makes the factory glues very tacky and sticky, so there's limitations on what I could do at the moment, but throughout the repair process I'll be able to finally get in there and do some of the other work on it. So I just put a little crepe heel pad in there. I'll grab my hammer and all these little nubs here with the nails sticking up, I'm able to hammer through. There we go. Grab some pliers, reach inside. Might be able to show you on a shoe a little better than on a boot, but grab the nail heads, I don't know if you can see that, and just pull them out like that. That way there's no old nails hanging around left in there, and there's no damage to it if we rip it out through the opposite direction from the heads themselves. Some shops and even factories too, what they end up doing is they leave the heads in there and then they just sand it and grind it all down, and that's fine, I guess, but the problem is that if you resole these a handful of times, eventually you have so many nails sticking out and nail heads underneath that it just all gets in the way. But also at this point, since I got the insole out, I can pull the tongue back up. I can show you, there's the stitching from the Blake stitch machine right there. Don't know if you guys can see that too well. There's some right there. And we're gonna go ahead and grab our little pliers here and start pulling it out. Usually once we get a nice good corner on there, we're able to pull it and then the whole thing starts to come out nicely. Majority of the time, but that's why these are fairly long. There we go. See, just like that. There's a bunch of little pieces flying around all over inside. Those just get dumped out and they're all set. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and move on to our sander, sand up some of this, take out some of these little straggler threads all over the place too, and get ready to start filling in the cork. It seems like the way they had it designed, the cork pieces, so they had one in the ball of the foot here and a little bit here on the heel, not much, but just a little bit. So we'll go ahead and replicate that as well, so there's some cushioning in the heel, not only in the ball of the foot. One of the other soles, I guess I guess both soles had it and it was just not noticed the first time, but I'll go ahead and get that all taken care of and get the cork on there and take the old soles and trace out pattern here so we can get everything as centered as possible and continue on. So we'll see you back here in just a little bit. Alright, so we're back here again with these. I gotta put my little sign back, right? Gotta have it in the visual, right? But anyways, filled it in with the cork areas there, right around the heel there, ball of foot, just like it was originally. It's just a small thin amount, nothing too major. It's nothing like 1/8 of an inch or any of that. Total, I think once we leveled it all out and ground down the extra, it came out to probably maybe 1/16 of an inch, if even that. But also I ended up grabbing the sole, I cut it out there a little bit more, and went ahead and just put our logo in there, Cobblers Plus. Hopefully it's all centered nicely, just because everything was so heavily worn out on this sole, on the original sole, that it just turned out a little bit funny to work with, I guess you can say. But let me go ahead. Usually I lay everything out on the table and start laying it out, but considering the fact that everything was so worn out, I gotta try to do this a little bit different. And since we're also working with a pair of shoes that has no welt, I'm trying to see, man, alright. Hopefully it's all centered. It's more aesthetics when you have the JR logo and our little logo centered, but we try to make it nice, you know. By the way, I did take the sole out of the oven, so it's a little toasty and malleable because this JR sole is very dense, and so we want to make sure that we're able to work it in very well. Right to the press. Alright, I'm going to let it sit on the press for a few minutes. I'm going to shift around from the heel to right in front of the heel, and then from that area to the arch area, and then from the arch area to the ball of the foot, and then from the ball of the foot to the toe, and just kind of allow any air pockets to kind of squeeze out through the front area. It is after hours here already, which is kind of perfect timing to let these cure overnight, and then tomorrow morning I can come in and start trimming it out and getting it all prepped up and ready for the next steps. So for you guys it'll be a second or two. For me it'll be tomorrow. So we'll see you all a little bit later on that. Alright, so we've got these guys trimmed up here a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do the channeling on here. The other sole I kind of left alone, so you got to check out how it's trimmed up also. But we're going to get started on that. Alright, sorry for the noise. I've got some help here today finally at the shop, but I gotta go ahead and continue on with these while the gentleman's working on the machine. But we've got everything kind of grooved out, trimmed up. We've got the back of the heel here sanded out, and now we've got everything roughed up to start putting a finish on, because it's kind of better at this stage to get the finish on right now before we continue on. So I'm gonna put on my face mask and fast forward all this, and it's gonna get a little noisy. So I've gone ahead and sanded all that out and put a finish on the bottom. Of course, it's a lot easier to do the finish before we end up stitching it. That way the stitches don't get too colored and too much cream doesn't get gunked up in there. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and cut out the toe plate. There it is. We're putting on the Triumph brass plated toe plate like that. I already got one of them cut out like that there, but I think I'll go ahead and show you guys. Now we do the Triumph toe plate cutting out beforehand so that way I can get back in here, channel that a little bit deeper, just a little bit, not much, and then afterwards I can stitch it and then put the toe plate on, so we're not accidentally cutting through the stitches or sanding through them or any of that kind of stuff. But go ahead and get that lined up. Just going to use a blade like that there. And right now I'm just starting to mark it first. Make sure it doesn't slide on me though. Kind of a challenge because it wants to slide around with that finish on there. There we go. Okay. Try to do this so that you guys can see and Alright, so we've got everything cut out now. I touched it up with a little more finish bottom stain there, just so that the little edges, the light color, doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. But sitting there nice and flush. Now at this point we'll go ahead and move on to our stitch room and get everything stitched up. And then we'll start nailing down the back of the heel here because it doesn't get stitched in the back, just the ball of the foot area and right behind the arch here close to the heel. And that's usually with the Blake stitch, but we'll go ahead and move on to the stitch room and get things going. Okay, so I've gone ahead and also filled this a little bit with some more cream again so that it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Sorry, I can't talk this morning. It's the next day already. I couldn't finish these out yesterday. It ended up getting a little hectic, and I apologize for all that noise in the background. I had a gentleman who was helping me out, and he's one of those that just go. He's fast, so he doesn't slow down for anything. I slow down because I'm trying to get this video taken care of for everyone, but he doesn't do the videos, so he just keeps going. But anyways, we're over at our Blake stitch machine. We call it the McKay machine actually, and so we're going to go ahead and stitch these up. I've got preloaded brown thread in here. I was debating on doing yellow because we're going to have so much gold with the toe plate and everything and all that, but I guess we'll keep it neutral and keep the gold on the JR logo, the toe plate, and the heels that we're going to put on. We're going to have the combination JR heels and brass nails going through. But we'll go ahead and get started on that. My thread go there, it went. So I had to go a little bit slower on this machine today just because yesterday we were having some technical difficulties with it. It was trying to rip threads and not do what it was supposed to, and I had to get in there and tune it up a little bit, so I wanted to go a little bit slower just in case anything comes up. Stitching on this machine, I don't like it so much. I don't like Blake stitched stitchers. You know, used to be that I liked them just because they were easier. I hated the curved needle stitcher back here that we have, and ended up changing over the last few years just because the curved needle is a little bit more finicky machine. It's usually harder to run. There's always something going wrong. It's the last machine everybody learns. The Blake stitch machines are very easy to learn. It's just a matter of fine-tuning that perfection. You know, if you know how to do it, the next step is learning how to perfect it and all that. And you know, I've got this machine down fairly well, but when something acts up, it's a lot harder for me to deal with problems on this machine than it is on the curved needle. So you know, it just drives me a little nuts. But you know, we just don't do as many Blake stitch shoes in general. We do majority of them on our curved needle, and the curved needle became my favorite machine in the shop. But this one's still not bad. Did pretty good actually. Just gotta clean up a little bit here that some dust got pulled through. Sometimes you get some lint from the inside of the shoe even after we blow it out. We have to kind of clean it up just a little bit. But you can possibly see, let me tap that so I can possibly see some of that stitching down there. Pretty nicely uniformed. Turned out pretty good. I'm happy, no problems or technical difficulties this time. So I'll go ahead and stitch up the other shoe off camera real quick, and I'll put on the Triumph toe plate. I'll let you guys check out how I do that, but also rough up this back area where the heel is some more, and secure these ends here just a little bit. Usually they're well secured with adhesives underneath the heel base. The ends don't come apart, but with a Blake stitch shoe, I like to get in there with a different form of adhesive and kind of make sure it's secured a little more permanently in there and there's no issues. I'll rough that up, run some nails in here, and I'll let you guys check out what the nails are. So you know, we'll kind of do the toe plates and the nailing here. I'll do the securing off camera of the ends of the thread, and the roughing up a little bit more off camera as well. So we'll see you back here in just a few, or in the other room. All right, so we're back here over again. I cleaned up this back area and secured the stitches here. We use one of these scraper brushes. Looks pretty brutal and scary, right? It's not bad on the hands. It's just when you apply some pressure, you're able to scratch up and scrape this area up. Sometimes we sand it, sometimes we use the scraper like this. This will gouge it a little bit deeper. The sander, not so much, but I'm gonna just use the gouger because it's still sanded up nicely. It's just I had to get some of that bottom stain out of there. But while I'm here, clean up a couple of these little frizzies real quick. So small little details, sometimes it makes things a little bit nicer. Just and when I say frizzies, they're just these like sock lint that builds up. It sometimes gets pulled through along with the stitches while the machine is stitching, because with the Blake stitch shoe, your sole is constructed in such a way where when it's stitched, the shoe is stitched clear through from the inside, as I showed you the stitches here on the inside right there, and it stitches through the midsole right there, through the upper and liner that are tucked in underneath, and any welts or whatever else you may have, because welts are usually decorative on a Blake stitch. They're not actually functional. I'll show you a piece here. Oops. I guess it was a longer strand than I thought, but that's what it looks like right there as far as welt. It's just decorative. There's no major functionality. For us cobblers it is, because it helps us with the guide. It guides us where that sole is supposed to be, so it actually makes it easier. These shoes were harder because there was no welt on them, and so it makes it a little bit harder to be able to get that perfect shape. It's all about the feel. You know, you get the feel of it. What some cobblers actually do with a Blake stitch, if it doesn't have a welt, or even sometimes if it has a welt, one of those imitation decorative welts, they actually just sand off the sole as thin as they can, and they leave about maybe 1/16 of an inch roughly, sometimes a little bit more, and then they just glue the new sole over top and then restitch it. I hate doing that because you can't pull out the old stitches at all, because the old stitches are still stuck fairly hard, fairly tight in there because of the adhesive, and the holes are still tightened up because the old sole is still holding it all down. I like to get it done, you know, with, I don't want to say proper and then those guys are improper or something, but in reality it is the proper way to do it, is tear off the whole sole completely, and that's how you want to do it. But I've got the toe plate here. I already have the holes punched from before I did anything else. I just wanted to see how they were lining up. So I'm just gonna stick one of these screws in here, grab my drill, if I can get it down. Okay, there. Come on. So the key is to try to get these screws to go down as straight as possible. Certain things that us cobblers do, we try to angle certain nails or screws so that they angle inward. But the trick with these toe plates is that you have to do them as straight as possible. This may be some good tips for some of the cobblers out there that just started doing toe tips. You want these screws in as straight as possible. You don't want to go in at an angle, inward or outward, whatever direction. You want them as straight as you possibly can, because otherwise what happens is, it's a great idea if you have the screws angled inward, that way they don't end up accidentally sticking outward. That's kind of the thought process of it. But what happens is, if you angle them inward, that toe plate ends up getting shifted forward, and so you end up with that little gap right there, a little bigger than you'd hope. There's always going to be a very minute crack there, like a little fracture, not fracture, gap. And you know, it's the goal for a good cobbler is to try to have little to no gap whatsoever, but there's always going to be very small ones. I mean, as you can see right there, very small ones. But that's kind of like a competitive state for a cobbler. We try to compete not only amongst each other but with ourselves to see just how flush we can get that toe plate, how close, how, you know, how minimal of a gap it is. But there's always going to be a minor one regardless. It's just unavoidable. There's going to be something like that. And I tap these edges just a little bit because toe taps, they have a little bit of a rounded feature to them, but sometimes it's not enough, sometimes it's too much, and so we have to make sure that we tap it so the rest of it kind of sits a little flusher as well. And then tighten these up a little more by hand. Looks like that one's good, that one's good, and there we go. Yeah, I don't tighten them down completely with the drill, just because the drill, you don't feel it. You have to be able to feel it. It's kind of like another sixth sense. Us cobblers have a lot of 6th, 7th, 12th, 20th senses, but I think this is going to have to be sense number 18 in the books. I'm just going to give it a number. This is 18th sense for us cobblers. We feel the tension of those screws here, just because, again, this is leather, different grades of leather, different types. They're going to be different, so it's all about feel, and you can't do that with a drill. I mean, you can only drill it down so much to make it a little bit quicker and easier, but the final tweaking, you got to do it by hand. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and grab my brass clinch nails. These are called clinch nails because when they're significantly too long for this sole, if you were just to think about it. But what they're designed to do is, once you hammer it down in there like so, and they end up hitting this cast iron last, they go completely through right here and they turn into a hook. So they hit the cast iron last and they curve and turn to a hook and then get flattened out and everything on the top here, so that this back area here doesn't come off. And that's done on a lot of shoes, because like these, of course, they're Blake stitched, but they don't get stitched all the way to the back of the heel. I could stitch it through here if I wanted to. The dilemma is that because of the way the shoe is structured and everything, there's a chance that you may accidentally hit the metal shank. It could end up doing some damage on the back of the heel. The heel counter that keeps the shape here. The heel counters are kind of strong and durable. They are still rigid. The rigid stuff tends to crack a little more easily. So if I end up stitching through it, it unfortunately weakens that heel counter. So any unnecessary stitching I don't recommend doing. There's some shoes, if they come in that are just glued on, I try to avoid stitching it unless I'm able to. I have to examine the shoe once the sole is off. I have to check the inside, and if I see that it's gonna withstand the stitching, I'm gonna stitch it. But if it's too thin of a material, it's too rigid of a footbed or something, if something is not right about it and there's a reason why that sole was just glued on, then I'm gonna glue it on properly. I'm gonna let it cure for an extended period of time, and it's all set to go. I actually have a pair of Dolce & Gabbanas here. Let me grab them real quick. These right here, little Dolce & Gabbana shoes here. These, I was debating on stitching them. I still have to trim out the edges and everything. They're a really rough cut at the moment. But after examining them all over the inside, the way they're structured, it's a bad idea to stitch these for a number of reasons. From the factory, these were just glued, they were not stitched. And I looked it over. Reason number one is this is a suede upper. It's very soft, very delicate. So because if we do a Blake stitch, it's gonna make holes in the upper material, but it's gonna be underneath the sole. And suede has a tendency to stretch and give a little bit more easily than finished leather like these. So those holes could end up after a period of time stretching just a little bit too much, and then eventually the upper rips and turns out a mess, and you don't want that to happen, especially not on a pair of Dolces. Reason number two is the overall structure on the inside here. This footbed is designed in such a way that if I was to stitch it, the gentleman wearing these are supposed to be a delicate shoe. He's gonna feel those stitches significantly. If he wears them barefooted, these kinds of shoes here, a lot of gentlemen like to wear them barefoot, a lot of ladies do too, or with a very thin sock. It's more of a summer shoe. So he's gonna feel those stitches, and it's not gonna be that it's uncomfortable. You're gonna feel them, and it's just gonna feel awkward. And then finally, reason three is because this is a slip-on that's very soft, very malleable, it needs some flex. The JR sole is fairly stiff as is, but when you start adding stitches in, the stitches, they pull everything tight, they just tighten it down, and so this sole becomes a little stiffer, actually quite a bit stiffer. And so you don't want that with a soft shoe like this. This is supposed to be a soft, delicate shoe you could wear as a house slipper, just wear it out casual, or on the beach even too, when you're just going out for some drinks and not actually going swimming. Don't wear a suede on a beach if you're going swimming, please, especially not Dolce's. But I just wanted to show that and point that out. So they're different builds, and these ones, they were stitched from the factory, so that I know for a fact that they can withstand stitching. They're a finished leather. They're a little bit bulkier as far as the interior construction. These are significantly more delicate. If I had these apart, I would be able to show you the interior, but they're a lot more delicate, where these are on the inside a little more hefty, a little bulkier, so they could withstand all that stitching. So just wanted to point that out real quick to you. Before I keep talking more, I gotta start running these nails in, and so that I'm not making too much noise with what one cobbler calls it hammer time. It is Steve Dudeklian. Steve, I think I got your name down right, out in Virginia. He's got a YouTube channel as well. If you don't know him, check it out. He does a lot of great videos too. He's out in, I can't remember the city, but he's in Virginia. Check him out, Beatles Leatherworks, on YouTube, or check out his website. I don't know what his website's like, I haven't checked, but you know, check him out. He's infamous for using a hammer, and everyone calls it hammer time, and he laughs a little bit. He's like, you know what time it is? It's hammer time, and starts hammering away. But I don't want to bother you too much with the hammer time. I don't do hammer time too much, just because some people apparently watch my videos to go to sleep. I'm that boring. I'm very quiet, very boring. Actually, I think I talk more than... Sorry, how to do the hammer time. I think I talk more than Steve in my videos. Steve does a lot more hammering, so... You know, if you want noisy, just noise or something, you may want to check out his videos. If you want informative or something, his are very informative as well. I try to dig down into a lot of the nitty gritty, a lot of the details and stuff, and almost all my videos. And I think one of these days I'll just make a video where I don't talk and take up time for anybody that wants to be able to just sit down and relax and just watch without hearing me talk. Got plenty of videos. I know some of you enjoy my videos with me talking and being informative about it. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the comments. But I think I may have to get around to trying to do a video where I just show the process. What do you guys think? Should I do at least 1 or 2 videos like that where without me talking, maybe in the beginning as an introduction, and then from then on to the very end, just show it off. By the way, also, I hope everyone's been enjoying this angle. Seems like with the feedback, everybody's been enjoying this angle where I'm talking face to face. I'm not used to talking to a camera. My first handful of videos, it was awkward for me in general, talking to a video while just showing the repair work without my face. So this is a new transition for me as well, with being able to see me face to face. You know, let me know, what do you guys think? Face-to-face work? You guys don't like looking at me? You guys want to see more of me? Well, more of me is fat belly, basically. All the cobblers make fun of my fat belly in my videos, because that was the only part you were able to see in my previous setup. But anyways, before I keep talking and talking, let me grab the mate. Where did I put it? Dang it, I had the mate. Ah, there it is. I did the other one off camera real quick, but this was the nail setup here. So I did a total of, what is this, 4, 8, 9 nails. So 4 on each side, kind of going around like that, and then 1 in the middle at the back of the heel. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue this all up and get it going for the heel bases. We're going to save the original heel base, of course. These are in great shape. They just need to be glued up in some of the layers. Thankfully, these are leather. A lot of companies end up using fiberboard, but these, I like these. Ended up being leather. So if you want leather stacked heel bases, Santoni's definitely your pair of shoes that have them. I don't know if they have too many shoes that are Goodyear welted if you're a Goodyear welt fan, but their Blake stitch are very well made also. You know, there's Blake stitch shoes, and there are Goodyear welted shoes. Check out my other video. I think it was called different builds or different constructions of shoes. I talk about basically the different build styles and how they're assembled. I'll talk about molded soles, Goodyear welted Blake stitch, and just even glued on like these guys that I just showed you here. So I just thought I'd point that out for you if anyone wants to check out that video. Anyways, I'll continue on with this. I'll get the heel base glued on. I'm gonna run the nails back in there. Because these are easier access, I'll actually run the nails in by hand instead of on our heel wheel that I usually do. I'll let you guys check that out. It's a little bit easier usually doing it by hand when you have easy access inside the shoe, and this one's perfect for that. So let me finish them out before I continue on too much, and we'll see you back here in just a little bit. Alright, so I've got the heel base attached onto here. So at this point we're going to go ahead and run the nails. We use, of course, the little 5/8 inch gripper nails like that. And the original holes are still there and everything, so I'm going to go ahead and stick that in. I'm going to use the last. It's a little bit easier like this. And then I hold this one down, and then I grab the bigger hammer because this allows me to really work it. So you're gonna have a ding. Here comes a ding, because it's a ping hammer. Okay. So probably don't know if you guys could see it, but there's the nail there. Now it's sitting there pretty good, but I like to give it one extra hit with this here. This is kind of actually a extension for a drill. And we use this actually fairly often with Western boots, just because we need to be able to get down in there, and this thing works perfect for it. It's small enough where it doesn't block off anything, and get a little bit of light in the inside of the boots and see what's going on. But I don't really use that hammer all that much, the ping hammer like that. But go ahead and use this one right away. we go. So they had originally 5 nails in here, and that's what we're going to go ahead and put in. Put the 5 nails in on both shoes. I'm going to sand out the bottom and get ready to put on the JR heels. I have to double check the measurements that I have written down. I think I may have to actually take off a single layer off this heel base because the JR heels, they're the dovetail style. They're a little bit on the thicker side, so I have to make sure that the angle and everything are adjusted. That's why the JR heels, they come in at an extra cost. It's not only that the material costs more than your traditional combo heels or your regular rubber heels, but it's also that it does take a bit more work and effort to actually get it to work right. So, you know, just as a heads up, if you're at our shop, at any other cobbler shop, most of the time JR heels come in at a bit of an extra cost than regular. But are they worth it? I think so. They look great. They're strong, they're durable, and they're heels, you know, so extra few bucks here and there. How does Steve say it? Hammer time. There we go. Nice. But, yep. So at this point, I just gotta get that top lift taken care of tonight so that it sits there, cures overnight, and then tomorrow morning when I come in, I can finally really sand things out and finish out the toes here. Because for anyone that may be wondering, the toes like this on the toe plates, they always stick out because the Triumph ones, they only come in one size, and then the Lulu ones, which are the silver ones, they come in multiple sizes, but they still have to overlap to a certain extent. Depends on the build of shoe or boot, but they're different amongst each other. So all right, but I'll go ahead and get that taken care of. I'll get the top lift glued on, and then we'll see you back here tomorrow once everything's cured, and we'll start finishing out the edging. We're gonna finish out the heel bottom on it, and continue on with what we got to do. So we'll see you back here tomorrow then. For you guys, it'll be a few seconds. All right, so I've got the heel on there and everything. I did this morning already sand out the edging and everything so that it's at least roughly sanded up. So it's not quite smooth or anything yet, but we're over here at our 100 grit sandpaper belt, and I thought I'd at least show you guys that. So we'll go ahead and get that taken care of. On here I've got the sanding belt that's 100 grit. Down here behind the machine I have what's called a cone sander, and it's going to sand out this inner edge here. A lot of times some cobblers end up sanding this beforehand and then attaching the heel base. I don't like doing that too much myself personally, just because I've already gotten the hang of getting this thing sanded out nicely, because I also have the palm sander and I get in there nicely without causing any kind of damage to get it really smooth. But every cobbler is different. That's my personal preference. I know Steve, for example, like I mentioned him, he's one of those guys that before he attaches the whole heel base on there, he glues a top lift on there, sands it out so it's all nice and smooth in there, and then attaches the heel base. I try to avoid that personally. It's ends up being kind of iffy all the time on me for some reason. I just don't have luck with it, I guess. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and sand everything out. And up top here, I have my Numcake sander. I don't even know if that thing's in frame. Let me see real quick. Yeah, it's a little bit in frame, so you guys will see that at least. But let's go ahead and get started, get the fireworks going, because we got the toe plate that we gotta make sure to sand out, make it nice and flush, so it's gonna be sparks flying everywhere. All right, but let's go ahead and get started then. recording? I think it is. Right? Hey. Alright. Touched the toe plate, still a little warm there. But there we go. Got everything sanded out nicely, nice and smooth all around. And we're going to go ahead and do the edging on here right now. And continue on. So we'll see you back here in a little bit. It's actually lunch break for me right now, so I gotta hurry up and eat while the toe plate anyways needs to cool off because it's still fairly warm to the touch, and we don't want to put an edge dressing on there, otherwise it's gonna just kind of burn on there very quickly. I actually want to be able to wipe it off, so when I'm applying the edging on there, if some gets there on the bottom, I could wipe it off quickly, but when it's hot it dries too quickly, and then I gotta sit there with acetone or alcohol or something trying to scrub it off, and it's a pain. So gotta let them cool off anyways. Go for my lunch break, and we'll see everybody back here in just a few then. Alright, so I'd gone ahead and done the edging on these and everything, and waxed them up, so we're gonna go ahead and start getting ready to finish out the sole area at least. Alright, so we've got our little tool here. I think they're still called a compass on these. I can't remember exactly, but basically they go back and forth to adjust the width that you want to mark at least. And so I'm gonna do this here and just mark up where we want the nails to be sitting. Okay. There we go. They're at least evenly spaced. We can eyeball them and get fairly close, but I got the fancy tool. Might as well put it to use, right? While I'm doing that, I've got the insoles here. We usually try to keep the original ones. I still got to clean it up somewhere. I have sprayed them down with a desalting agent a few times, but I just got to clean them up some. I put a fresh pad here on the bottom for the cushioning because the old one was just falling apart, and so I'm waiting for that to cure anyways. Once we get those taken care of, we'll glue them in, treat the uppers with some Saphir Medal d'Or, and they are ready to go. And right now I'm using just a punch tool like that. It's starting to bend on me a little bit. Been using it so much, and this one's super thin. You could probably hear the kiddos in the back. It's a snow day today. We got hit by a blizzard pretty bad. I don't know if we're gonna make it home tonight. We may have to stay the night at someone's house here a little bit closer because we live about 45 minutes away from the house with the dirt roads around us and everything. It was very hard to see those roads this morning. It was so white. But that's probably why you can hear the kiddos in the background. Snow day, they end up coming in with us. And I could technically skip this punch tool right here. I could skip the marking with the compass tool as well, but you know, the problem is when you start using the nails, you're gonna accidentally hit it wrong or something, and the nail ends up bending or going in sideways, and it destroys the look. I mean, it just ruins the hard work and effort we put into it. So taking this extra step here, it's gonna be great. I mean, now the nails, they're these brass round head. I like the round headed ones on these. There are flat head ones, but I can get these sitting in there pretty good. And I like these, but in general, these nails are more of a decorative piece, in other words. But not only that, they also help hold everything down, because after all, this combination heel, it's got a rubber padding you can see right here on the side, and they still got to be buffed up a little one last time. But you can see that there's the leather piece right here, and then you can see the rubber. So basically this leather patch here is glued over top of rubber. So there is a bit of a chance that the leather can come unglued after a period of time from the rubber and just peel off, and then it just looks horrible and makes it uneven wear. But these nails here, they're gonna help hold that down. a little bit stronger. So, oh, come on. Forgot to mention I did also do the finish on the bottom of this heel here, so. And I think this is actually my last video I'm doing here in this location, because tomorrow everyone's already running around packing while I'm trying to get some work finished out before I start packing away and everything. We're moving over right next door. If I haven't mentioned it before, or if this is your first time watching or something, you know, down the road possibly that we might be already moved, but for as of today, and actually once this video is posted we're gonna be done moving, but as of the recording time right now, we are right in the midst of all of this here. So it's a bit of a hectic time. So, you know, just kind of bear with me. Also, I want to give a huge thank you for Mr. Steve again from Virginia at Beto's Leatherworks. He gave me a shout out on his YouTube channel, and all of you newcomers who joined us from his channel, thank you very much. And I've had a few comments and messages saying, let's hear your hammer time. Here's my hammer time, I guess. There you go, hammer time. Like Steve says, we're cobblers. We're not videographers. We're not pros at this. I mean, I can edit the sound down and out, but the problem is that currently the only device I have to work with is my laptop, and my laptop is starting to get overloaded with all the videos and everything being edited, and it's starting to crash. It's a mess. In other words, this poor laptop, it's given out on us just a little bit. So, you know, I'm trying to save up for a desktop version so that the processing speeds are a little bit faster and I can edit everything nicely. Now, this here's another punch tool that's a little bit flatter on the end here. It's got a little rounded area, and I'm just going through the nails and punching them down. Oh, sorry, I had a sneeze about to come up. Punching them down a little bit deeper. Come on, that one is just trying to be stubborn. There we go. That way they don't stick out too much and potentially scratch floors, although these are brass nails, so they'll wear fairly consistent and everything. But okay, voila, got the toe tap cleaned up here a little bit. I gotta buff this all up one more time, but before I do the final buffings, I'm gonna go ahead and go through and get these conditioned up, treated, then go ahead and do the final buffing. And oh yeah, almost forgot to glue the insoles back too. So let me go ahead and take care of all that real quick, and we'll see you back here in just a few. All right, so we're back here again. Got everything finished out on the bottoms here. Got the edges taken care of. Got the uppers conditioned. I used some Medal Dior Renovator Cream here from Saphir. The Saphir Pate Deluxe Medal Dior Light Brown. And because the type of leather this is, it's got like a kind of like a crinkled look to it. In other words, some leathers have what's called pebble grain, crinkle. Well, I don't remember if this is what it's called exactly, but it's kind of like a crinkle. And you know, sorry again, got the kiddos here today because it's a snow day, but you know, so I didn't apply too much wax, but just enough of a thin coat to bring it out to shimmer a little bit and give it a layer of protection, because with the waxes that are in here, that's going to help repel water a fair amount. Sorry, I keep getting interrupted, and I forgot I got to display my little sign here too. I'm still not used to having this thing. Thank you again. Alright, so what was I saying? Oh, the laces. Okay, so laces here, they're kind of a ladder type, you know, step ladder right here. And this gentleman had a particular pattern. I can't remember what it's called, but I call it a coil, because the way it goes, it's quite literally, it goes up like a coil. So we're gonna pull this through. Oh, somebody also grabbed that. We're going to pull these through at the bottom here, in like that. So we're going to take one that's a bit shorter, I guess, just a little bit shorter, not too much, about like that there. And we're going to have to come across here because this particular tongue has this little loop right there that the lace needs to go through. So it's going to come across, go underneath the loop if we can, otherwise the tongue falls in. Come on, it's a little hard to get it in there the first time. There it goes. Okay, so at the bottom here, it's going to go across like that and go straight up into this lace right here. If I can get this guy out of the way. Sorry, had somebody asking a question out there. But anyway, so we've got the bar here at the bottom first. So the hole here actually comes all the way across. If I can get this out of the way to show you. It comes across from this one to the opposite side, very top one right there. Hopefully you guys can see it. So just leaves a bar across. Now the longer lace here, it's gonna come across and go into the opposite side hole from the bottom, and then come around and then back through the top. And so basically it just kind of spirals around. One of the laces just spirals around, going back and forth and back and forth. And that's how this gentleman had them before. So I just thought I'd show that particular way of lacing. So fun fact for any of those that you don't know, oh shoot, and I messed it up already. For any of those that may have had the question of how to do it, that's just one of the methods. There's a handful of other ones too, and you know, maybe one of these days I should probably make a whole video on a few different lacing and tying and the laces also. I mean, but there are a lot of videos out there already by a lot of people, so don't know. Let me know in the comment section below if you really want me to or not. And sometimes you gotta do a little bit of adjusting. The first one I did needed no adjusting whatsoever, so I'm gonna shorten it just a tad bit. And then for anyone that was also wondering, as far as the insoles, why I didn't replace them, you know, we'd replace them. We recommend replacing them too, but some people want to keep the original just because it says Santoni on the inside there. So, you know, it's personal preference. I did replace the cushion, however. We cleaned up the old ones. I mean, there's a few, it looks like as if there were like some kind of sticky pads or something that were left over on them, so there's like little scuffs and chunks laying around. But you know, at least the padding is replaced, so he's got some fresh cushioning in there, which will be nice. But anyways, fix up my sign here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah, that's how we do JR leather soles with JR combo heels, the dovetail style particularly because they're thicker and we need to adjust the height of the base, and the Triumph toe plates. The Triumph ones are the brass colored one. Well, brass plated, they're gold colored. So, you know, Blake stitch sole and everything. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And as always, if you're local, you're more than welcome to swing on by, especially now that we're going to be at our new location once this video's up. If you're local, check it out. It's going to be pretty cool. We've got some interesting people joining us. I don't know if he wants us to mention it quite yet in our videos too much, but a lot of you may guess and may know already. Well, actually I should. Jason Dornstar. Jason Dornstar is actually coming in to work with us. We'll have a shine stand, a shine bar, and everything. So if you're familiar with them, come down, check him out, get your shoes shined and everything. Maybe you'll become a YouTube star with him. If you're not familiar with him, definitely check him out. I'll leave a link down in the description to his channel. Just Dornstar Shines, I believe, or Jason Dornstar. Dang it. Sorry, Jason, I forgot what handle you had on YouTube exactly. It's either Dornstar Shines or Jason Dornstar. So, but I'll leave the link in the description down below. So I'll have him next door and all those people as well. Well, a few other guys. We got Spencer, who's going to be working on hats, like cowboy hats and fedoras and all that, reshaping them, cleaning them, because I'm not a hat expert, and this guy is. And he wanted to partner up, and we're going to give him a little bit of space up front too. So definitely, if you need any hats worked on, we're trying to get him to finally set up his Facebook and Instagram and possibly a YouTube channel, but the guy's kind of all over the place. He's younger and just wants to have things set up, and got to get him going. But anyways, and if you're not local, you could always go to our website, cobblersplus.com. All of our information is on there, just about. We need to update a few things on there. And send us a message, give us a call, send pictures, whatever you'd like, and we'd be more than happy to help you. If you want to ship in your orders as well, there's a ship and order tab. Just follow the instructions, fill out the PDF, and we'll be happy to take care of any shoes, boots, or other leather goods you may have as well. But again, as always, hope you had fun watching this. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, comment in the description again if you have any questions or anything like that. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell icon to be notified when we have our next video out. And we'll see you next time.